Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. Have the middle classes more or less seceded from the real India, as some people put it in a rather dramatic manner? Or more specifically, are the middle classes in a bit of a bubble of their own, disconnected from the rest of India? Or another way to look at it, which other people say, the middle classes are really being treated badly and they're being forced to bear the brunt of everything that the government is doing that is wrong. Are any of these correct, or what is actually the truth? And by the way, is the vote of the middle class really going to make a difference in the coming elections? That's another thing that everyone is trying to track. So all that we see on Twitter and Facebook and the middle class angst, is that going to translate into votes? So that's another question we're going to take a look at. And I have to say, we have a great panel with us to take us through all of that. For starters, joining us from Goa actually right now, Chetan Bhagat. Chetan, great to have you with us. Thanks so much for being with us on The Big Fight. Joining us from Delhi is Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, spokesperson MP Rajya Sabha from the Congress Party. Great that you could be with us. Here in the studio, Captain Gopinath, it's a pleasure to have you with us. It's the first time I think we've got you in the studio, so it's a privilege that you could be with us. We have Sandhya Venkateshwaran, who's a development professional. She's been working on a large number of social issues. Chandan Mitra of the BJP. Yogendra Yadav. Yogendra, should I say Aam Aadmi Party, or should I give all your other various hats that you wear?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay, for the moment we'll call you Aam Aadmi Party. Sure. So Aam Aadmi versus Khas Aadmi is one of the questions.
Khas is here.
It's one of the questions I'm sure it's something which we'll throw at you at some point. Satvik Verma, lawyer and columnist. Sorry, not columnist. Columnist, not a communist. Thank you for being with us as well. Meera Sanyal is about to join us. Why don't I start with you, Chetan? Do the middle classes in India live in a bit of a bubble of their own?
Bubble sounds a bit derogatory, but I do feel that they are in a bit of their own world, and we often, especially this world is reinforced by the media, which is basically for the middle classes only. I mean, this program is basically being watched by the middle classes, and we start to believe that whatever is coming on TV is our issues and this is India. But there is a lot of India out there which is not represented on TV, in the press, in the media, and we don't talk about it. For example, are slum dwellers getting water? And while you may think that's not a big issue, believe it or not, a lot more seats are going to be decided on whether slum dwellers are getting water versus middle class issues. So I think the middle class youth is very well intentioned. They really want to change India, but somewhere down the line, they find it very uncomfortable, or they just don't find much in common.
Okay. Captain Gopinath, do you agree with that?
Middle class is largely in a cocoon of its own, in their clubs and their pubs. And I contested 2 elections. The last elections I contested as an independent, and deliberately so, to get the middle class to come and vote, because in Bangalore, 55% almost did not vote. In large apartment blocks, even in the software industry area, out of 1,500 people, only 4 or 5 or 6 voted. So I think middle class all over the world are that way, in India particularly so. They are totally disconnected. They do not want to take part in the mainstream civic issues.
Before I come to any other, Satvik, do you agree with that?
I think it is probably a little too unfair. I think it's fair if we were to look at pure data that 50% of the middle class does not vote. I think it's fair if we look at data that's available publicly, that in the last elections we had only 53% voter turnout in a place like Delhi, and the number was as low as 43 in Bombay. So I think it's fair to say that the middle class doesn't really come out and vote and really support.
Let's set the voting aside. First of all, the connection with the real issues. Is there a disconnect there?
Yes and no. And the reason I say yes and no is because I think in the last couple of years that has changed. I think there's a lot more connection now. And if we go through, if we analyze what are some of the issues that the middle class is focused on, middle class wants law and order. It wants something that's going to affect them. We saw the middle class coming out in the Delhi gang rape case, for example, in support of it. The middle class wants the rule of law. We saw that in the Jessica Lal case, for example, when they came out, and that's what forced a re-verdict. The middle class wants a corrupt-free society. It wants, greater transparency. We saw that when the middle class supported the Lokpal bill, for example. And the middle class now wants that the public services that are available for them are available in a manner that is easily accessible. So I think that the answer I'm saying, the reason I'm saying yes is because I think the middle class is really coming out.
So Yogendra, you're Aam Aadmi Party, right? Now, we saw that entire mobilization that did take place. Everyone came out at the time of the Anna Hazare movement. They were on the streets. They were arguing against corruption. Is that an Aam Aadmi issue, or is that one issue which cuts across both the Aam Aadmi and the middle class? Or is the middle class the Aam Aadmi?
The strength of that movement was that it actually picked an issue which cut across all classes. Forget the middle class. Actually, if you speak to the real elite of the elite, if you speak to people who you think are corrupt, even they think they are victims of corruption. So the beauty, the strength, and in some ways also the weakness of the movement was that it was about an issue that anyone could identify with. Aam Aadmi Party, or the entire movement, cannot claim and must not claim that middle classes are Aam Aadmi. And in any case, middle class is a bit of a misnomer, Vikram. Our notion is someone who drives a vehicle, someone who has possibly an AC in their house and can manage to speak the kind of English I manage to speak. They are all middle class. Now, if this is middle class, India has less than 10% middle class. So in other words, people we call middle class are in the middle of nowhere. This is the tiny elite of India. This is 90 percentile and above. And the tragedy of this country is, and the peculiarity of the country is, that from the 91st percentile to 100 percentile, they have created a universe of their own. Someone on the 91st percentile feels that they are at the bottom of the hierarchy. Someone at 93rd percentile feels that they are in the bottom half. They have created a universe unto themselves.
Says that I'm middle class.
If you, 98 percentile says I'm middle class, and when I spoke to someone in 97th, 98th percentile and said, but you don't look middle to me. They said, but we don't manage to take vacations every summer to Europe and Switzerland. We manage to do it only once in 3 years. How can we possibly be not middle class? Okay. This is the universe that they have created.
Before I come to Chandan and to Abhishek on that, Sandhya, let me just get your opening views on this.
In a lot of ways, the middle class is disengaged with what's going on in the country. Of late, we've seen an increasing engagement, but it's a very selective engagement. So the middle class engages on issues where it sees a stake for itself. So it came out on the streets in the case of the December gang rape because it felt threatened. It came out on the streets in the case of the corruption movement because it had a stake, because it's both perpetrator and victims of corruption. It came out in the case of the Jessica Lal murder because suddenly everybody felt vulnerable. But we never see middle class coming out when, say, a Dalit girl is raped. It's never happened. We never see the middle class coming out when the state of education in government schools is talked about, because we don't have a stake. So yes, there is an engagement only on issues where the middle class sees a stake for itself.
Chetan?
It should not be construed that the middle class is hence selfish and greedy. I mean, they are well intentioned. They are also not living a great life. They are also suffering. Their standard of living is also, not. But what they often don't realize is that what they blame the people above them, the higher classes, for exploiting them or being corrupt, they may be guilty of it themselves. For example, I'll just talk about it, like the lady just said, they did come out on some cases that created fear in them, whether it was the Mumbai case or the Delhi case. Let's look at the domestic help kept by the middle classes in Delhi, for example. Is there a minimum wage for them? Is there a compulsory day off for them? Are they not workers? Do they don't deserve some workers' rights? That question the middle class will never raise. And then when elections come, we want to say, oh, these poor people don't know how to vote. They vote on liquor, they vote on this, on that. So obviously there is a disconnect. We are not helping the poor people are not helping us. The solution, they are disconnected and they are only concerned about their issues, and I guess the lower classes are concerned about their issues. But if we genuinely take on certain issues of the poor people, this country can transform. But somehow we feel they don't exist.